Hi, and welcome back to Lori's Crafty Corner. Here are all the layouts that I made in February. They are a total of 28 layouts. Now, it's not that I made a layout each day, it's that some days I made multiple ones. These are all on my artist page on Facebook at Lori's Crafty Corner. They're on Instagram. They're also on Pinterest. And most of them, not all of them, of course, but most of them have process videos here on my channel. But I'll look up the links to those process videos and include them in the description below. So let's get started. These first 7 layouts were made with the Hip Kit Club's December 2018 kit. Oops, sorry. And what I want to do, I've mentioned this before, what I want to do with those kits is try and see how many layouts I can make with that kit as much as possible, using it up as much as possible. Because my goal for this year is to try and use up my stash as much as possible, and if I do get kits or do get a collection, to use it up as much as I can, because I noticed over on the Christmas break, I noticed that things that get left over, I hardly ever use them. And I noticed that because as I was cleaning up my craft area, not exactly a craft room, I noticed that I left over some pieces of paper, ephemera, and stuff like that, and originally I thought, oh, I'm gonna use those, but I've noticed that 3-4 years have gone by and I haven't used them. So that's my goal for this year. And that's why I use up the kit as much as possible. I do have some things left over, but I've put them all aside with everything that I get from the Hip Kit Club, and I'll try to use them into in my other layouts. So this is the first one. The title is Merry Christmas. It's a picture of my husband, my sons and I, our sons and I. And I used a lot of the pattern paper. Most of the papers from that kit are exclusives from the Hip Kit Club. They do, I think they'd had like one or two papers that weren't exclusive, but yeah, I loved everything. I added some mixed media. This is the Shimmers in Misty Morning, just to add an extra shimmer to the background. This one, the title's Wonder, and my idea was to go with monochromatic. I apologize for the squeakiness in the background. My sons haven't yet fallen asleep, so that's why you can hear some squeaking, but that's all part of mom life. So yeah, I wanted to go with a monochromatic look with it. I don't count gold as a color, so in a way this is as monochromatic as I can get with the red and the white. I added some shimmers in Minor 49er and some red acrylic metallic paint. Let's see. Oh, there it is. And I also added some gold glitter paste with a star stencil. Most of the items are from my stash. I added a piece of red ribbon. This one, also by the Hip Kit Club, by materials from the Hip Kit Club's December 2018 kit. Again, I added mixed media with, this is red acrylic metallic paint. I added some splatterings with white acrylic paint and some shimmers in Minor 49er. I also added some glitter, the same glitter paste I used in the other layout. I watered it down and then I just painted like a rectangle, but it peeks through a bit. Another by the Hip Kit Club. This is number 4 by the Hip Kit Club's December 2018 kit. I added a not gold, it's a blue and green. It's like a turquoise green acrylic metallic paint. And I also added some Oaky Bear Blue splatters, that's a shimmers, and Pining for You. These are from my stash, but everything else is from the kit. I loved how this one turned out because I just used my white cardstock and I just began splattering red acrylic paint, gold acrylic paint, Pining for You. And that's the bigger splatters, because what I did is that I watered the shimmers down and then I loaded up my brush, held it high, and then I began squeezing it, and that's how I got the bigger splatters. And I also used Oaky Bear Blue. Everything else, except for this and the wood veneers, everything else is from the kit. These 2 items are from my stash as well as the Nuvo drops. Loved this one. This was actually inspired. The Hip Kit Club always, like, weekly, they share a sketch, and we follow that. We're not obligated to, of course. It's a challenge open to anyone who's in that group on Facebook, that you can join in the fun. And the sketch I follow, this layout was inspired by that sketch. It's the first time I do a layout where everything's like clustered in the middle, and I loved it. I used Miner 49er or Oaky Bear Blue, red acrylic metallic paint, and Pining for You for the splatters, and I used the red metallic acrylic paint here to form a circle around, to create like a little nest beneath the wreath that I used. And this layout was the last layout that I made with the December 2018 kit, and I used all the pieces of paper that were left behind, even the branding strips. Some of them I cut them, some I just left them as is. Everything is from the kit except this ampersand and the wood veneers. And I used gold acrylic paint to add some shimmery and mixed media to the layout. These next 7 layouts are using the Hip Kit Club's January 2019 kit. The kits arrived like one after the other, so that's why that's why I have them all together. For this one, I followed, I think it was a layout that either Audrey Yeager or Missy Whitten shared a while back, and I loved that vertical feel over on the left side, so I scrap lifted that. I used, this is pink shimmers, and yeah, everything's pink shimmers. And I also added some white acrylic paint to form like a square beneath my picture. Everything is from the kit except for the Nuvo drops here. Loved how this one turned out. It's the first time that I have an angled photo. I've had angled photos before, but like here in a diamond shaped, that's the first time I've used it. I used this yellow cardstock is from my stash, but everything else is from the kit. I used shimmers in Oaky Bear Blue and in One Hot Mama. And I did, I watered down some white acrylic paint to do a bit of packaging technique where my picture is going to be. And then everything else is from that kit. This is also from that kit. I just used, I think these are about 10 by 2 or 2.5. I used all the strips from most of the paper. All these strips are from most of the papers that are found in the kit, and sorry about that. And I pulled out the reds. I have some flowers that are pink, so I matched that. I used the greens and the blues to bring about this layout. Oh, and what I did, this one has a process video. I used shimmers in coordinating colors where the strips of paper were going to be. This one, I went scrap happy, because even though this would be the fourth layout with the January kit, I already had some bits of papers left over. So what I did was I pulled them out and I just layered them. Some of them are torn, some of them are angled, and I just, I layered them all beneath my picture. And for the dimensional aspect of the layout, I just layered the ephemera or the other embellishments. I loved how this one turned out, because what I did was that I picked out this orange color and the pink color of my dress, and then picked some of the this one's moved out. Need to glue that back in. But what I did was that I picked papers that coordinated with those colors, and then to pop everything up, I used black cardstock. And this is just a trail of white acrylic paint, and this is shimmers in marigold. I also added it in splatters, both the white acrylic paint and the shimmers. This one took me a while, but I loved it. I hand stitched around the border. That's the string is from my stash. The thread, I should say, is from my stash. I just used a back stitch, and then I used four different pieces of paper, of patterned paper, that I cut into about 1-inch strips and about 10 inches long, and then I tore each of the ends off to add this torn look. And then I added my journaling at the bottom, and I just embellished with whatever I had left from the layout. From the kit. This is the last layout, the 7th layout. So with the December kit, I made 7. With the January kit, I made 7. And with the February kit, so far, I made 7. But I'm working on one extra that I might be able to pull it up into 8 layouts created with that kit. So for this one, I used a piece of cardstock. Well, not a cardstock. Actually, they're both patterned paper. I'll turn it over. This is actually from my stash. This came in the kit, and what I did, oops, I need to glue those letters down a bit better. Anyways, the title is Major Hard Eyes for You. First time I do like a really long title. But what I did, you saw when I flipped it over, I joined the 2 pieces of pattern paper together, added this strip, added these squares are about 8 by 9-ish. And then my picture here popped up on craft foam and some black and white striped patterned paper. Everything is from the kit. I also added some white acrylic paint splatters, and these aren't stitchings. I just used a pen, a black pen, and then ran, it's the Lazy Scrappers tip to adding some fake stitching. I do have a sewing machine. I got it as a Christmas present, but I haven't gotten it down to actually sitting down, figuring it out how it works, and you know, but it's in the process. Again, the title is Major Hard Eyes for You. I need to, before sticking these into the layout, into the scrapbook album, I need to make sure everything's glued down properly. This is a fussy cut layout. This is a pattern paper. The background is a pattern paper by Simple Stories, and the collection is I Am. It's the newer one. And I fussy cut these butterflies from a piece of pattern paper that I had left over. This flower cluster, I also fussy cut it out. I added some vellum flowers, and this layout came about with using only 2 pieces of pattern paper and a quarter of another. That quarter paper is that's where I pulled out the butterflies from, and they are popped up on 3D craft foam. Loved how this one turned out. This is the Dear Lizzy New Day collection. I made cut files. I didn't make the cut files. I cut out the cut files it's like a leafy branch, and these are flowers. Both of them are from Paige Evans. And I used 2 pattern papers from the collection to bring this about. I used the green for the branch one, and and this one that's like raspberry-ish is from it's in a flower cut file. I added this is a branding strip running down the middle. The pictures popped up on 3D foam. There you can see a bit of dimension from the flowers. They flattened out a bit from lying flat on my stack, because what I do is that since towards the end of the month I need to film my layout share video, I just begin stacking the layouts one on top of each other, and that's what causes them to flatten out, which is a good idea. If you do mixed media and your paper warps, you can I've heard people say, oh, I lay some 12 by 12 paper pads on them, but I've found that even with an empty 12 by 12 cardboard box, that it's not as heavy, you can still flatten the layout out so that it's not as warped. I don't really mind the warp, but for example, if I'm not done with the layout yet, in the sense that I need to add journaling or some extra embellishments, I want it to be as flat as possible so that my journaling is not on the wavy side. So yeah, this is my first full-on mixed media layout. What I did, this has a process video, but really summarized down, all of these colors are distress oxides. What I did was I took each of the colors and I put it on some packaging, watered it, and then began splattering. What I did first was that I began my layout like this and creating like stripes of color going like this. And then I also added some gold acrylic paint. The border is in gold, and I did not know that that was going to happen. This is modeling paste, and even though the oxides were finished, they were dry, the modeling paste picked up some of the pigment from beneath them and created this really cool like speckled look to them, and I loved them. Then these flowers are 3 butterflies layered one on top of each other. They were inspired by Paige Evans. She has a layout that has multiple butterflies stacked on top of each other. And I went crazy with, this was on a piece an extra piece of cardstock. I went crazy with yellows, pinks, oranges, purples, to bring about these butterflies, and then I punched them out, layered them, and then placed them on the layout. Here's a boy themed layout, and I did some chain stitching over on this border. This also has a process video. I used a lot of mixed media products. I used shimmers. I used Heidi Swapp Color Shine in Navy, shimmers in Marigold, Minor 49er, and Just Peachy. I also used some Vicki Boutin acrylic paint as well. The wood veneers are from Jelly Bean Soup, and these larger stars have been embossed with white powder. I also added some modeling paste with a Vicki Boutin stencil. And my journaling goes all the way around the stitching. Loved this one. For this one, this is a cut file I already had cut out for Christmas. I handmade lots of layouts for my family, and then I gave them, you know, as Christmas presents. But in order to prepare for them, I cut out a lot of cut files that I thought I was going to be using. And this one I didn't end up using, so I had it in my stash. I just got it out, began using some Vicki Boutin art crayons to color it, to give it like that stained glass look. Afterwards, I added some shimmers in Misty Morning, and then I stitched with a basic back stitch all around the border. These hearts were punched out from a scrap of mixed media practice paper that I had left over. I added some sequins. Those are from Spiegelmom Scraps, and the enamel hearts are from the Paige Evans Whimsical collection. I also added some Heidi Swapp Color Shine in Navy. Loved this one. This is the first one that I made with the Hip Kit Club's February kit. What I did here is that I was inspired by these florals. They were fussy. There they are. I was inspired by them, and they were fussy cut from a piece of pattern paper that's in the kit. But what I did extra is that I watercolored some extra florals all over this area to create more depth. I added some vellum flowers, and these flowers again were fussy cut from a piece of pattern paper from the kit. Everything except these words, the Nuvo, the mixed media splatters, and these alphas. These alphas. This is from the kit. These alphas, they're from my stash, as are the rhinestones as well. This one is also from the Hip Kit Club's February kit. I loved how this turned out. I like challenging myself to make masculine layouts. I love it. I love it. I used Ride the Tide, Ride the Tide and Oki Bear Blue. Those two, both of them are shimmers and some white acrylic paint to create the mixed media background. This one also has a process video. Layout number 3 with the Hip Kit Club's February kit. Used pink, Ride the Tide, and the black splatters are actually a watered down art crayon in black. These squares are from a piece of pattern paper that's in the kit as well. It's full of those squares. What I did is that I cut them up, and I used the ones that were relevant to the picture, and I just stacked them all up. This one's growing on me, I have to be honest. Originally, originally I was not gonna add like these chunks of mixed media, but I wanted to do, excuse me, let me go and, okay, somebody was a bit hungry and wanted some snacks. So originally I wasn't going to add these splatters or huge chunks of mixed media, but I wanted to try out the splattering technique in the sense that you take a small bowl, you add whatever paint you want, you water it down, and then you just drip it on the layout. And I wanted to try it out, and it didn't work. It ended up splattering way too close together. I did not like it. I tried dabbing it up, but it didn't work. So I added some paint, and then using like a paper towel, tried to smoosh it down. In the end, what I learned is if you want to try out a technique, don't do it on a finished layout. Do it on some piece of scrap paper and whatnot. But you know, it's growing on me. I added the title up top and added some pink paint to, you know, try and soften it up, and you know, it's different. Loved all the pinks in this one, and pink is not my favorite color. My favorite color is purple, but I loved how this one turned out. Everything's from the kit. What I used was white acrylic paint with the packaging technique. These bigger splotches of paint are shimmers, gold and roses. I used one Hot Mama and pink as well, and some Heidi Swapp Color Shine in black. Loved how, I really do. I loved how this one turned out. Another masculine or boy themed layout. Again, I picked up the blues from their outfits, and since I loved that angled look of a layout that I made previously, I made it again. I added some teal acrylic paint by Vicki Boutin. I also added Oki Bear Blue. I added, these are black paint splotches. These alphas, the blue ones, are from the kit, but this is from my stash, as are these words and the Nuvo drops over here. This is the 7th and final layout by the Hip Kit Club's February 2019 kit. Went crazy with the mixed media background. I used 2 colors of Vicki Boutin's acrylic paint. One's pink and the other one's hot pink. I don't remember the specific names for them, but yeah, it's those. These hearts were fussy cut from a pattern paper that's a Hip Kit Club's exclusive, and this torn paper is actually what was left from this one. For here, I flipped them over and used the straight edge to hide the paper in. For this one, I used whatever was left, placed it in the middle, and added all the embellishments there. And I added pops of blue to match the dress that I'm wearing and my son's outfit. Loved this baby boy layout. I love it. I'll leave the announcement towards the end of the video. So yeah, I used a chain stitch around all the border in white. This is a gray basil cardstock. I used a star stencil to add some stars in silver glaze, some gold acrylic paint, and some pearl acrylic paint. And most of the items are from my stash, but the patterned paper that I used and some of the embellishments are from the Echo Parks Um, Welcome Baby. It's a boy collection. It's the new baby boy collection that they just got out. And these are from my stash. You want to say hi? Hmm? So yeah, this is the final layout. Layout 28, made in the month of February. It's an all-out mixed media layout. I used Heidi Swapp Color Shine in Ocean. I used Distress Oxide. I used shimmers, acrylic paints. This one has a process video. Again, I'll link all the process videos in the description below. And the rest of the items were from my stash. Now, the announcement that I was going to make is that March will probably be featuring more masculine, more boyish themed layouts. I'm trying to organize my craft room to pull out everything that I have boy related in order to make these new layouts. So stick on through. Please, if you see something that you like, leave a comment below, like the video, share the video with others. If you follow me on my artist page on Facebook, you are more than welcomed to share the ideas with other people, because that's why I share my layouts with everyone, because I want them to be inspired to try things out, to either go with a more traditional look of scrapbooking or with an all-out mixed media look to their layouts. But more than anything, to get their pictures scrapped, to get your story documented. So yeah, I'll see you back soon with another process video, and have a great day.